All right, people should be coming in now. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kaylee Weaver. Before we get started, I want to give a quick housewarming that if you do come off mute to ask a question or say anything, please state your name for our interpreters to let us get started. But without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to our wonderful Affording Aging work group leads, David Richardson and Suzanne LaFolic Black.
Well, good morning. What a glorious day it is in North Carolina. We just want to say thank you so much to all of you that have been a part of this wonderful journey on All Ages, All Stages, North Carolina. And I really want to make a special thanks to Joyce, Mary, Divya, Jill, of course, Kaylee, and the steering committee for leadership of this great multi-sector plan. Also, another special thanks to our co-leads, Dr. James Chappell and Dr. Tina Newsom, who are in charge of our subgroup on ageism, lifelong learning, education, and volunteerism, and our wonderful team that supports that. Our other co-leads with financial security are Dr. Sandy Gregory, Dr. Sharara Montessori, Dr. Jeff Hutchins, and our great team members. Again, a big thanks. And one more thank you to our Governor's Aging Advisory Council liaison, Dr. Carolyn Berg, for all of her expertise. David?
Thank you, Suzanne. I'm David Richardson, and welcome. We're really excited to have you this morning. And Kaylee, if we can go to that next slide, please. We're excited that you've been able to join us this morning. We have a great presentation ready for you to help you get up to speed on the exciting work that's been going on with the All Ages, All Stages North Carolina plan. What we're hoping to do this morning is to provide a connection, a learning opportunity, and public transparency and meaningful action for the All Ages, All Stages plan. Today's webinar is the third in a series of 4 webinars that are focusing on each of one key areas of the plan's goals. Today, we're going to share updates and progress on the plan. How can we grow those partnerships and the real world impacts that we're hoping to achieve together through the implementation of the All Ages, All Stages plan? What you can expect from us today is a shared understanding of what All Ages and All Stages North Carolina is, insights into how the implementation subgroups are leading these efforts, a national perspective from Bob Blancato about what's happening across the country and communities in moving resources for older adults and improving the lives of older adults, and practical ways that you can get involved and stay engaged, whether you're a state official, a local partner, an advocate, or a service provider. You can help shape the work that we're trying to accomplish under All Ages and All Stages. We're glad you're here. Your voice, leadership, and partnership are critical in turning this plan into a successful goal. Suzanne, back to you.
Oh, thank you. Next slide, please. All right. So what is All Ages, All Stages in North Carolina? It's actually a result of an executive order we had on May 2nd, 2023, with Governor Cooper signing an executive order. I will never forget that day because it was also my son's birthday. And I thought, oh, what a great way to celebrate. And so we're just so excited that North Carolina is the 10th state to be an age-friendly state with the Age Friendly Network and the World Health Organization. You know, this roadmap is just outstanding. It really is helping us to decide to prepare our state to support everyone as they age. This plan was developed by bringing together many partners from across sectors such as health and housing, transportation, social services, and so more in a strategic planning process. The goal is to transform our systems, strengthen infrastructure, and improve coordination of services for our rapidly aging population and people with disabilities. This initiative helps us work more efficiently by elevating shared goals, reducing duplication, and streamlining efforts. so that we can build an inclusive, effective, and responsive future. All Ages, All Stages North Carolina focuses on aligning existing work and doing it better together. You may recognize some of the messages that you'll see today in slides, and they're very intentional. We want to make sure that repetition and we have a great shared understanding. So because of this wonderful implementation phase that we're in right now, our success means not only knowing the plan, but living it, shaping it, and advancing it together. David?
Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, Kaylee. The All Ages, All Stages plan has been a long-term effort by the North Carolina Division on Aging. Starting in 2022, North Carolina has started to take significant steps and deliberate action to develop and implementing the plan. Back in 2022, North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services Division on Aging joined a national collaboration focused on multi-sector aging plans. In addition to joining the national collaborative, NCDHHS DAS has been working with AARP North Carolina to develop and pursue the age-friendly state designation. Together, AARP North Carolina and the Division on Aging have launched the Age My Way North Carolina. This initiative is geared toward fostering age-friendly communities and promoting policies that support aging with dignity and independence. These efforts continued in 2023 with the implementation and execution of Executive Order 280 by Governor Roy Cooper. This executive order led to the development of the multi-sector aging plan in coordination with cabinet-level agencies across North Carolina state government. Beyond the mandate in Executive Order 280, it includes several specific directives to improve protections for vulnerable adults, enhancing nutrition services, expanding broadband access to address digital equity, and providing increased support for family caregivers across the state of North Carolina. Also in 2023, the All Ages, All Stages North Carolina began the formal planning process. It involved extensive engagement from stakeholders from across multiple sectors across the entire state of North Carolina, including health, housing, transportation, social services, advocacy groups, and people with lived experiences. Through the public input, forums, surveys, and meetings, over 160 recommendations came about to address the needs of older adults and individuals with disabilities. By 2024, this initiative launched a targeted media and outreach campaign to raise public and stakeholder awareness to the plan and its goals. The plan has now been reduced to 41 actionable steps grouped into 8 priority areas designed to focus resources and efforts on the most impactful strategies. The final plan was officially adopted in September 2024, and the plan's focus has now shifted to implementation with state partners and local stakeholders to execute those priorities, monitor progress, and adjust to ensure that the needs are met for all North Carolinians. Back to you, Suzanne.
Thanks, David. So let's look at our current priorities here. Affording aging is about the potential of older adults, and it's one of 4 core focus areas in North Carolina's multi-sector plan for aging, alongside the other 3 that you see: supporting older adults and their families, optimizing health and well-being, and strengthening communities for a lifetime. As we move from planning to implementation, we face both persistent challenges and promising opportunities. However, there is strong momentum. Across the state of North Carolina, partnerships among local governments, nonprofits, employers, and community leaders are driving innovative approaches to expand financial education, promote age-friendly workplaces, and develop sustainable funding models. Coordination among counties, municipalities, area agencies on aging, and state agencies will be critical to ensuring that older adults not only afford to age, but also realize their full potential as active, valued members of their communities. David?
Thank you, Suzanne. Under Affording Aging, our goal is focused on ensuring that older adults have the financial security needed to age with dignity, while also providing the resources and supports that enable them to thrive with purpose, pride, and joy. The plan's written with just one priority under this goal: the potential of older adults. Because we know the potential of older adults is multifaceted, this priority captures the many ways financial security, engagement, and opportunities combine to support meaningful and fulfilling aging experiences. Back to you, Suzanne.
Thanks, David. At this moment, we want to take an opportunity to really talk about what affording aging is. And it's really about ensuring individuals on how they can age with financial security and access to affordable long-term services and supports, including both institutional care and home and community-based options. This goal addresses the common reality that many older adults rely heavily on Social Security, which alone is insufficient to cover basic expenses. It also recognizes that ageism and inflexible work environments often push people out of the workforce earlier than they wish, reducing their financial stability. We emphasize expanding opportunities for older adults to remain employed through flexible work, phased retirement, and entrepreneurship. Supporting unpaid family caregivers who frequently face financial burdens and lost income is also a very big critical part of this goal. Additionally, Affording Aging focuses on improving navigation of complex financial and care systems. Remember, Affording Aging is not just about individuals having enough money. It's about whether our systems are designed to make aging sustainable for families, communities, and the state as a whole. David?
Thank you, Suzanne. Advancing the goal of affording aging requires a collective impact approach that recognizes financial security and the opportunity for older adults as a shared community responsibility. No single agency or sector can address the complex challenges of affordability, caregiving, workforce participation, and access to services alone. We prioritize elevating local leadership and lived experiences of older adults and regional voices. We co-design strategies that address both financial and shared and social needs, helping older adults not to just survive, but thrive with purpose and pride. This approach fosters cross-sector collaboration across housing, transportation, workforce, healthcare, and social services to align policies and resources effectively. It also enables innovative, sustainable funding models that support older adults' financial stability and unlock their full potential. The collective model vision strengthens systems to support older adults' abilities to age with dignity while continuing to contribute meaningfully to their families and their communities. Suzanne?
Thanks, David. Well, now we're going to get started into the meat and potatoes of everything. And so right now we're going to go over the overview of workforce and trends. We're also going to look at the AARP Employer Pledge and also CAFE, which is Certified Age-Friendly Business. We're also going to go into programs and resources that are available. But first, we have a question for you all. In the chat, please answer the following question. Based on what you have seen or experienced, do you think workers face in the workplace today age bias? That's a yes or no. So do you think you see age bias in the workplace? So please put that in the chat what you think. And if you have any examples to share, please share that. We would like to know what you've seen. David.
Thank you, Suzanne. As we continue to get responses in, let's start talking about the changing demographics in our country. We've heard for multiple years that we've got a silver tsunami coming. That is also impacting the character of work and the workforce. As you can see from the slide, the average life expectancy has substantially increased over time. In 2007, the oldest age at which 50% of babies that were born in 2007 are predicted to still be alive in the US is 104. In 2022, our average life expectancy was over 78 years. Next slide, please. With our average life expectancy gains, it has continued substantially since the early 1900s. We had a small dip in 2020, primarily due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But since 2020, we've seen that increase continue, with average life expectancy rising to 79.3 years for individuals in the US in 2023. Next slide, please. This increase in our life expectancy has also substantially increased the career paths and the amount of time people spend in a career and in the workforce. In 1960s, on average, people worked from their 20s until their mid-50s. We're now seeing people enter the workforce in their 20s and staying in the workforce up until their 70s, and even in some folks into their early 80s. That career period of time has increased by over 20 years by 2060. We're also seeing that currently with more and more older adults being in the workforce, choosing encore careers to re-enter the workforce as they have retired from that first career. Next slide, please. With that change in the workforce, we're also seeing some decreases in shrinking in the workforce. But the largest growing factor in the workforce currently is forecast to be older adult workers 65 plus. These workers bring significant skills, significant guidance, and intelligence to the workplace, increasing the efficiency and effectiveness of companies as well as younger workers. Next slide. And back to you, Suzanne.
Oh, thank you, Kaylee. So we're going to talk right now about workforce demographics, and we'd like to share a little video with you about the different generations in the workplace. Kaylee? Go ahead and start the video. Nothing's happening yet.
Are other people able to hear the video and
I
see
can
it?
hear it, Kaylee.
We can't hear anything.
Yes.
Oh, you can hear it? Oh, good.
Yep.
Thanks,
Okay,
Melinda.
I'm gonna start it back. Perfect.
Great. Thanks, Janice. All right, go ahead. I can't hear it, but go ahead. Carly, that was outstanding. Thank you so much for that. So I hope you got the gist of this. So in the chat, we'd like to hear from you. And what generation are you in the workforce? So what generation are you in the workforce? So if you'll just put that in the chat, that'd be great. There are 5 generations in the workforce today. You know, over half the workforce is over 40. I mean, who knew? And you know the definition of 40 through the Department of Labor is actually an older worker. A lot of people go, what? My son is now an older worker. He can't believe it. He's 43. So in 6 years, millennials will start to turn 50. That's my son. And so by 2032, the first time in United States history, adults 65 and older outnumber children 18 and under. So I'm really seeing a lot of Gen X and Z in here. This is good to know. And oh my goodness, a baby boomer. Woohoo! Hey, Janice. Congratulations on turning 65 next month. So let's go ahead to the next slide. David?
Thank you, Suzanne. With the labor force, as we've said, the labor force grew 21% over the past 25 years. But the biggest amount of growth were with the number of workers aged 50 or older. That increased by 89%. As we continue to see, the number of older adults in the workforce is continuing to change and continuing to increase, while the number of younger workers is decreasing, partially because our population is shrinking. If we can go to that next slide, that is causing a lot of changes in the workplace. As an employer, it's something I experience on a daily basis. It's that development of those soft skills. We're seeing a significant change in those soft skills. The preparedness of the workforce to address soft skills, to implement them in the workforce. Older workers, older adults have those soft skills. They're an asset to the workforce and the workplace by conveying those soft skills to younger workers, things that people don't learn in school, that they acquire with years of experience, with years of work. Some tasks are automated. Some tasks have become more computer driven, but those soft skills still remain. That critical thinking, that critical knowledge base is what is needed. If we can go to the next slide, and 83% of employers have told through the AARP Global Employer Survey in 2020 that they find valuable or at least somewhat valuable an organization that has a multi-generational workforce. And that's because multiple generations bring multiple types of intelligence. The slide on your screen currently talks about how those different types of intelligence come into effect as you're working through your career. As you can see, it's an ever-evolving process. It's an ever-growing process. And by having those multi-generational groups in the workplace, workplaces are able to be more successful. Back to you, Suzanne.
Thanks, David. So now what we're going to do is talk about the benefits of age diversity, but something I just wanted to mention. There are a lot of stereotypes, and I've seen some of those in chat of some folks that they have noticed that the overqualified, if you're an older worker, or can't find work because you're too old, or you don't know the lack of knowledge of technology, or looking at age bias, or you have invisible disabilities, you're going to cost me more money because your cost insurance or health insurance is going up, that kind of stuff. There were some articles that came out in Newsweek, Forbes, and the New York Times, and the titles were kind of interesting. Now, I'm not offending anybody. This is just an article that was written, but Gen Z is the worst generation to work with. Now, I wonder who wrote that and how old that person was. Also, in Forbes, millennials are the worst unless they're the best. And then that sounds like my son. And then the New York Times, for younger workers to get ahead, do boomers just need to retire? I mean, there's all these types of stereotypes, but we really want to emphasize the benefits of why it's important to have age diversity. Go ahead. Next slide. So what we have found in our research is that older workers do boost productivity. As a matter of fact, many companies feel it's 11% productivity increase. I mean, that's quite a lot. And they find that it's more productive if they have an age diverse workforce. Next slide. So let's look at the strategic value of a multi-generational workforce. Research has shown that mixed age teams perform better than homogeneous age teams. And think about your own team that you work with. What are your generations and what are the skills and the talents that each of you bring together? And it makes it so much stronger. It shows a lot of dynamics. It shows innovation. It shows creativity, and it's just the best. Next slide, please. It also fosters positive work culture. It opens communication, it shows recognition and celebration, and it also helps with work-life balance. Go ahead. Next slide, please. So let's get into the AARP Age-Friendly Employer Pledge. So this was launched in 2012. I was very involved with that when I worked at AARP, and we thought this was just going to be the best thing since sliced bread. Because what does it do? What's in it for me as an employer? What we found out is folks were saying, hey, I get program benefits if I sign up because I'm looking at the opportunity to be involved with Indeed free. I can recruit the people I want. I could look at experienced workers. I also get an opportunity to be in LinkedIn free as an employer with the Pledge program. I get special presentations. I also get HR credit for my folks if they need to work with SHRM, Society for Human Resource Managers, and that collaboration. I mean, it's just really fantastic. Go ahead, next slide, please. Also, this pledge looks at believing in equal opportunities for all workers, regardless of age. It recognizes the value of experienced workers, recruits across diverse age basis groups, and considers all applicants on an equal basis, and believes that workers who are 50 plus should have a level playing field in their ability to compete for and obtain jobs. Now, who's eligible? Your company could be eligible. First, no age discrimination lawsuits within the last 3 years. Also, you have a live website with contact information and an active point of contact. So, who are some examples of employers who prefer to hire older adults? I will tell you, we've got CVS Pharmacy, we've got Ace Hardware, and others. And do you have any examples of companies that you know of that either signed the pledge or are practicing looking at the experienced worker when they hire? Next slide, please. So we've got over 115 businesses have signed the AARP pledge in North Carolina. And who does this include? We've got large business, we've got corporate business, we have government, we have municipalities, we have educational institutions, nonprofits, etc. So my question to over 2,500 employers nationwide have signed the pledge. I'm asking you, do you know who signed the first pledge in North Carolina? I'll give you a hint. It's a banking institution. Anybody have any guesses? You can put it in the chat and you get a prize, just letting you know. So if you know who signed the first pledge in North Carolina, you might get a surprise here. I don't see anybody putting it in the chat, so I'm just going to tell you. It's Truist. It was BB&T. BB&T was the first to sign the pledge in North Carolina. I had the pleasure to get them to sign, which is now Truist. Next, please. So here's a geographic map of the pledged AARP employers. You can see which counties that they're in. And I have to tell you, it is really cool to see that we've got kudos to Central Council of Governments, Central Carolina down in Charlotte, Wake County Government, there are members, Winston-Salem Industries for the Blind, Sand Hills Community College, the Biltmore in Asheville. That's just to name a few that have signed this pledge. And we really need your help. Who can we reach out to in your circle of influence, even your own employer, to expand our age-friendly employer pledges, such as partnering with North Carolina SHRM, Society for Human Resource Managers. We have 16 chapters here. Also looking at kudos to Senior Services, Inc. in Winston-Salem. They have an employer benefit program in which we've spoken many times to empower their employee caregivers. NC Works Career Centers, other area agencies on aging, Let's look at advocacy associations, chambers, so many senior centers. Let's get everybody on the bandwagon and sign this pledge. Here's an opportunity. Next, please. So here's the other program. They launched before AARP did. They launched in 2006. This is a global program, and it's the Certified Age-Friendly Employers Program. So who belongs to this? These are the big guys, like AT&T, American Red Cross, for instance. But what we're trying to do is to see how we can all work together. And we want to see how many of our AARP pledgers are also certified age-friendly employers. And we'll be having another slide and information for you. But with the links that you've seen on both of these slides for the AARP pledge, as well as this slide for CAFE, you can find out all of the age-friendly employers. So think about it. Here's an opportunity, DeMarcus, this is for you, to reach out to age-friendly employers for work and save advocacy like we're working for right now. David, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Thank you. Let's go to the next slide. So as we're talking about older adult workers, I think there's a misconception that if you have an older adult worker, they're not going to stay in the workplace. However, studies have shown that older adult workers are 2/3 less likely to switch jobs than younger workers in any given month. In addition, Burning Glass Institute research has done studies that indicates that even if a worker is age 69, they're expected to stay at their current employer for an additional 4 years, 1 to 3 years longer than an early career worker. In other words, firms are more likely to get a return on investment from an older worker than they are a younger worker. The stability that older workers bring to the workplace increases that productivity and that culture of the workplace, ensuring that organizations are effectively and efficiently able to deliver their mission and vision. Next slide, please. Now, as we're looking at the changing dynamics in the workplace, we have to talk about transfer of knowledge. We have to know how that knowledge is going to get transferred. How are newer workers entering the workplace learning from those older workers? Do you, as an employer, have a plan in place? One example of a situation when a company didn't think anything about it, and that knowledge transfer is with Shell Oil in Texas. They had over half of their employees who were responsible for reading the maps, looking at oil rigs, oil fields, etc. Well, when those workers retired, the younger workers came in straight out of college. They didn't know how to read a map. And it ended up costing the company over $1 million a day to have those maps read until they could bring those retirees back as mentors to the younger staff. One action step you can take is developing a plan to have your older workers serve as mentors to your younger staff. Having them help transfer those soft skills, that soft knowledge over. One example I will give you of something I never thought that would have to be a conversation with an employee about is that now we have electric vehicles. Stopping to charge because you've got to charge your electric vehicle is not a work-related activity when you're traveling. That's not something you would think you would need to convey. But with younger workers, they're not having those soft skills to understand that. Empowering your older workers to share that basic knowledge, those basic job skills, those basic soft skills over to that younger workforce will help improve the effectiveness of an organization and help increase that competency of the soft skills. Older workers bring so much to our workforce. Next slide, please. Now, I think everybody in our group got the answer to this right when Suzanne asked earlier about age discrimination in the workplace. We know that it's going on. we know that it is occurring. In fact, when asked in general, 64% of the population has said they do experience or anticipate age discrimination within the workforce. Back to you, Suzanne.
Thank you. So quickly, let's just go over some programs and resources for older workers, 40 plus. I did see in the chat that some people are having troubles finding a job. So AARP is here to help you at no cost. So if you go to some of these websites that we've got on the left-hand side under Need a Job, such as aarp.org/work skills or aarp.org/job search toolkit, also free through Indeed Career Services. There's all kinds of things here to help you. And we also have programs. I'm going to do a little show and tell here real quick. Is right here through the AARP Foundation, and it's on 7 smart strategies for 50 plus job seekers. This also works for people 40 plus. Remember, that's the definition of an older worker. Then there's other programs. Work for Yourself at 50 plus, the Senior Community Service Employment Program, AARP.org Start a Business. And then what I love is the AARP.org Purpose Prize. That's entrepreneurs that give back, and they get a cash prize based on the great work they did. It's kind of like Shark Tank. So it's just really cool. Excuse me. Also, what we're going to be doing is we'll be sending some post materials on some articles I think you'll find very helpful when it comes to age discrimination, as well as age bias and benefits of age diversity. But also we'll give you a list of books and things you can look at. I'm just going to show very quickly Lost Knowledge by Dr. David DeLong from MIT about succession planning, and then our own Dr. James Chappell on Golden Years, how Americans invented and reinvented America about old age. So I just thought I'd mention that at this time. Okay, so you'll be getting that, and we're going to go to our last slide here before we get into our guest speaker, and that's about age is the only bias every single person experiences, and this is why age inclusion is so important. Age is both universal and unique to us all, and age affects our lived experience, but it's not often talked about at work, and it's something we need to start talking about. So let's go to it. So at this time, we have our guest speaker, and we're very excited about having my good friend Bob Lancato here today. And he serves on the National AARP Board of Directors as well as the AARP Foundation Board, but he does so much more. He serves as the Executive Director of the National Association of Nutrition and Aging Services Programs, National Coordinator of the Elder Justice Coalition, and the National Coordinator for Defeat Malnutrition Today Coalition. Bob's work prior in 20 years of public service, including 17 years as senior staffer in the House of Representatives. He was also the executive director of the 1995 White House Conference on Aging. And Bob is a member of Senior Executive Service. Bob is recognized as a national policy advocate for older adults and has testified on numerous occasions before Senate and House committees. I'm so proud of you, Bob. Thank you.
Thank you,
As a
Suzanne.
volunteer, I just think
I think that's good, Suzanne. It'll go on forever. It's okay. We're good.
Okay, all right. We'll just get into you. How about that? So let's talk about what Bob's going to talk about today. He is not only a nationally recognized expert on aging policy, but he has a deep understanding of the challenges and opportunities about older adults, which makes him uniquely positioned to help us guide our work to advance inclusive strategies in North Carolina. So Bob, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. And I will point out that we're not old friends, we're friends of long standing, so we can use the right terms, you see.
Thank you.
And David, thank you for your presentation. And Audrey Galloway, I want to thank Audrey for her help in preparing for today, the great outreach manager for AARP in North Carolina. Kaylee, thank you for your work. And congratulations to everybody on having your multi-sector plan adopted. It's a growing trend across this country, which is a good thing to happen. And I guess I qualify as an older worker, and I'm in the boomer generation. And I actually have an older brother who lives in Winston-Salem. So I hope he's tuned in. I know I mentioned it to him before. And my last thought is that was a fabulous video. That was a great educational video. I really enjoyed it. So congratulations to whoever put that together. So um, let's back up to that other slide we go. So just quickly, why is this important now? Some of these topics we're going to cover and you have already: extended workforce participation, inadequate retirement savings, which is really a critical issue in the boomer and the generation following, pressure on social safety nets, caregiving, and financial burden. So let's go to the next slide. And, what's the current national policy landscape? There's several ways I can phrase it. It's a challenging time. It's a mess. You decide what term you want to use. But we do know that Social Security, Medicare, and the Older Americans Act are vital to our conversation. And they're all celebrating their anniversaries this year. Social Security is 90, Medicare, Medicaid, and the Older Americans Act are 60. And we are focusing on all these programs because, they are foundational supports for older adults. Next slide. And I think you've touched on this a little bit already in the definition of ageism. It is the stereotyping or discriminating based on age. It's often overlooked compared to racism or sexism, but I point out, in fact, I wrote an article about this. Not everybody can be a victim of racism. Not everybody can be a victim of sexism, but everyone can be a victim of ageism. Okay, because we all are aging in this country. And then, of course, we have structural ageism across the work span: employment, media, healthcare, and so on. And, we've got to confront it. We've been denying it for too long. We need to confront it, and especially in the workplace. Next slide. And I think David touched on this and Suzanne as well. There is this misconception about older workers that results in discrimination in hiring, promotion, and training. And this last one is very important. When you examine age discrimination, you find that one of the main sources of it is the lack of retraining and proper upscaling of older workers as they progress in the workplace. But keep in mind, as was also pointed out, you've got a greater need for the older worker right now than you've ever had before because of the changing demographics of fewer younger workers, giving us greater need for older workers. So next slide talks about what an age-inclusive workplace looks like, which we all want to strive to be, with age-diverse teams, mentorship programs, vitally important. I don't function effectively in my business if I don't have at least an intern every summer coming in who can come in and learn, and we have a great opportunity to mentor that individual. Having flexible work and phased retirement options. The cold turkey frame of retirement, I think, is over. People will want to step back, modify their work hours, but they need the options to do that. Lifelong learning is vital. Can't overstress that point. And age-neutral hiring practices is also important. As a matter of fact, I'm proud to note that AARP Foundation just won a lawsuit against Raytheon, a big employer, for their failure to advertise properly when job openings became available. They were slanting all their applications to the younger worker. Next slide. What are the outcomes if you have an age-inclusive workplace? You have higher retention, you have increased innovation, and examples are supportive employer programs. You talked about the employer pledge program already, the multi-generational employee resource groups. These are all things that are very important. Next slide. On the employment policy solutions, first of all, we do have to do a better job of enforcing age discrimination laws. The Age Discrimination in Employment Act was passed in 1967 for people, workers 40 years and over. Okay. But the third highest category of discrimination complaints before the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission continues to be age-based discrimination. So we obviously need to do better. We need to incentivize hiring and the retaining of older workers. We need to invest in upskilling. Yes, as I talked about in job transition. I mentioned ADEA already, and we need to incentivize employers to hire 50 plus workers. I do need to add, though, from an advocacy standpoint, we are very concerned at AARP, particularly the AARP Foundation and across the country, with the failure so far to date of the Department of Labor to release the funding necessary for the CSEP program to continue. Okay, we have almost 50,000 older workers in this country who get their positions through the CSEP program. 50 low-income older workers. Okay, they're freezing the money, and if they don't fix it soon, they're going to be furloughing older workers in the only federal program that helps older workers. So we have to keep an eye on that, and we will. Next slide. So preparing for retirement, gaps and opportunities. These are things that we've all talked about a lot. The number of households are at risk of not maintaining the standard of living when they go to retirement. The challenges for part-time work, gig employment, low-age workers, and something that ARP really cares a lot about, which is automatic enrollment and savings portability. Next slide. And then talking about retirement savings, we have these different options, the 401ks, the IRAs, state plans in different states, expanding access and education for all income levels, and of course, improving protections against fraud and scams. Again, a place where ARP is leading in this country. And I will tell you, it's very important to understand the need to combat fraud and scams in this country because they are proliferating on a daily basis. So that's very important to keep that in mind as we talk about protecting retirement savings. So let's go to the next slide and talk a little bit about Social Security. It's a foundation that is under some degree of pressure. We know how many Americans depend on Social Security. Every year, the trustees come out with a report, and what they came up with this year was that if nothing is done by Congress and the president by the year 2033, there will be current people and future people will face as high as a 25% reduction in their Social Security benefits. This happened before in the 1980s. Congress fixed the system. I'm a firm believer that Congress would again step up and do it. The problem that we have is they wait till the last minute to do it, and sometimes that doesn't always produce the best solution. So next slide. There's different ways you can strengthen Social Security. Okay, the one that most people support is raising the payroll tax cap, or raising the cap. Right now, I think the number is when you make up to about $171,000, you pay Social Security tax on that income. But if you make $571,000, you're not paying Social Security for that other $400,000, and that makes no sense at this point in time. So raising the cap is certainly one solution. Adjusting the retirement age, which is very controversial, that was done in 1983. That raised the age from 65 to 67. There's talk about going to 68, 69, or 70. That's got to be really examined closely because it disenfranchises those individuals like minority older adults who don't live as long. And then gradual benefit adjustments. Another way to put it, your two solutions are increasing revenues or lowering benefits. And we've tried other options, they don't work. But whatever you do in modifying Social Security, we must protect the low-income beneficiaries for whom Social Security is their income, their entire income. Next slide. So family caregivers, okay? I mean, over the course of time, Suzanne probably remembers when we did the 1995 White House Conference on Aging, family caregivers was just getting to be discussed as a topic. Grandparents raising grandchildren were just being topped as a discussion, okay? Today, 48 million Americans provide unpaid care as family caregivers. They lose wages, they have career disruptions, health decline, including, by the way, losing Social Security benefits when they leave the workplace. So there are solutions that are needed. The most important one that ARP has been advocating for a long period of time is the Credit for Caring Act, but also paid leave and respite care. Next slide talks about the Credit for Caring Act, S925 and HR 2036, to provide a federal tax credit for family caregivers of up to $5,000 for eligible expenses, and recognizing the economic value. Now, this is one of those rare occasions where something that is bipartisan, that's going to help millions of people, and is not terribly expensive, is stalled. And we thought we had the opportunity, a unique opportunity, just a few months ago, when President Trump, during his campaign, called for a family caregiver tax credit. Okay, Vice President Harris also advocated for a Medicare home care benefit, and we had a tax bill that was just passed. It's called the BBB, as some of you heard it, but the family caregiver tax credit was not included. But there may be, and I expect not maybe, there will be another opportunity later this year. And I urge those of you who are on this call to contact your delegation in North Carolina to urge them to support that bill. Last slide, I believe. So this is sort of an understatement. You know, older adults have a huge power in shaping policy and are the deciding bloc in elections. You know, older adults still the most dependable and active voter in this country. And so in your advocacy work, you should be discussing combating ageism, promoting inclusion, and recognizing the importance of financial stability, protecting Social Security. But let's talk about Social Security from the intergenerational perspective. You know, if I hear one more time the concern that younger people have that Social Security will not be there for them, okay? When you are talking about protecting Social Security, yes, for those who are currently in the system and those who are approaching retirement age, but think about the need to protect Social Security across the generations. So your message should be in that framework. Passing the caregiver tax credit, expanding savings access. These are all things that we can all support. We all should support. And I urge you to work with ARP in North Carolina and nationally as we work to improve on this very important area. So thank you very much for the chance to join you this morning.
Bob, thank you so much for that excellent presentation and taking the time to be with us this morning. We greatly appreciate your insights and your commitment to older adults across the country and here in North Carolina. Bob is truly an expert in the field of aging and a true advocate for older adults across the board. Bob, thank you again so much.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Suzanne.
Sure.
Next slide, Kaylee. So you received some education this morning on what we're hoping to do in the national landscape when it comes to older adults and affording aging. What we want to talk with you now is about some of the work for the implementation and how we're starting to put the All Ages, All Stages plan into action and implementing the plan. The implementation is being done through various subgroups. These subgroups have started meeting as of June of 2025, and each group is focused on early action aligned with the plan. Hopefully you received an invitation to participate in a subgroup when they initially went out. But if you didn't, don't worry. There'll be an additional opportunity to join us as we work to implement the All Ages, All Stages plan. The next round of invitations will go out in October to advance the next round of quarterly meetings. We want to grow and evolve these groups, these subgroup implementation with the right mix of voices to build that momentum and make sure we're encountering shared ownership across the board. We're delighted now to hear from the subgroups that are working on the Affording Aging work group. To you, Suzanne.
Thanks, David. So there are two All Ages, All Stages North Carolina implementation subgroups. You will hear from each of the subgroups with an overview of the subgroup focus area, goals, and year one recommendations. Their first meeting takeaways, their emerging priorities, and plan direction and next steps. So we're looking at ageism and engagement for our subgroup 1, which encompasses volunteer engagement, workforce, and education or lifelong learning, and then subgroup 2, which is financial education and planning. This time I'd like to turn this over to Kaylee.
Let me spotlight myself. All right, perfect. So I want to give a quick overview. This is Kaylee. I'm going to give a quick overview of some data for our ageism and engagement group. So according to data, 24.1% of North Carolinians age 65 and up engage in volunteer activities, which closely aligns with the national rate of 24.8%. This indicates that while a significant portion of older adults are already engaged in volunteer work, there remains ample room for expansion. Strengthening these opportunities can increase not only volunteer engagement, but also the social connectedness and community engagement of older adults. These engagements foster a sense of purpose and fulfillment, which is crucial for healthy aging. Expanding such initiatives will also help reduce social isolation, a common challenge faced by older adults. So we're also going to talk about the perception of ageism, like we talked about a lot this morning. The national data reveals that 56% of older adults report having experienced age-related discrimination. Although state-specific data for North Carolina is not currently available, this national statistic underscores the need for action. Ageism contributes to negative stereotypes and limits opportunities for older adults, whether in employment, healthcare, or social engagement. A statewide ageism awareness campaign will work to reduce these stereotypes, promoting positive perceptions of aging and challenging the harmful bias that exists. By increasing awareness and educating both the public and older adults themselves about ageism, North Carolina can foster a more inclusive environment where older adults are recognized and valued for their contributions. The EEOC age discrimination cases in North Carolina. So in 2024, a total of 16,223 age discrimination cases were filed with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission across the United States. Texas had the highest number of cases with 1,860, while North Carolina also ranked relatively high with 681 cases. In contrast, some states reported fewer than 10 cases, highlighting significant disparities in reporting and enforcement across the country. The fact that North Carolina has a high number of cases suggests that workplace age discrimination remains a serious issue in the state. Older workers continue to face barriers in hiring, career advancement, and workplace inclusion due to outdated stereotypes and biases. The variation of cases across states may reflect different in work groups, in workforce composition, employer practices, or levels of awareness about legal protections. Strengthening enforcement mechanisms, expanding employer education on the value of a multi-generational workforce, and promoting age-inclusive workplace policies are critical in ensuring that older adults have equal opportunities to contribute and thrive in the workforce. And then I'm going to turn it back to Suzanne to introduce our subgroup lead.
Okay. Thanks, Kaylee. So at this time, I'd like to turn over to Dr. James Chappell, who is one of our co-leads with Dr. Tina Newsom about ageism and engagement. So, Dr. Chappell.
Hello. Hi, everybody. So, yeah, I'm just going to talk for a minute about what we are up to here. We have divided our work into, and for some of you here, this is not news because you're on these work groups, but we have created 3 different working groups. One about volunteer engagement, one about workforce, and one about education. Each of these has about 5 people, and each of them has a chair that is separate from Tina or I, although we have been going to the meetings both to be members, but also to be liaisons with the broader group. So I thought I would just speak briefly about each one of these 3, and then see if anyone has any questions. And also, any of you who are here, who I know Julia is here, I think Elise is here. If anyone is here from these work groups that wants to pipe up and add anything, or if I get anything wrong, please do so, or put it in the chat. So one of them is the which is being led by Julia Burrows, is the volunteer engagement group. And this is obviously a tall order to think about how to increase volunteer engagement. You know, one thing we have to do is know what is the current level of volunteer engagement. And I think Kaylee gave some data about that before. One of our tasks, I think for all of the groups, is to do some data fact finding in order to create metrics that we can trace over time. And so one thing this group is going to try to do is to understand those data that were talked about earlier. And the other thing is that we are going to be thinking hard, because this one is an interesting one, because as people in this room know, volunteerism and these are so local, right? This is the church across the street from me right now does things. It's like there are nationwide organizations, but so much of it is hyper local. So how do we collect data on that? What kinds of volunteer experiences are we looking for, and so on. And so this group is going to be doing some brainstorming about what can be done at the state level here, like what is meaningful action at the state level. That's another sort of set of discussions this group will have. And we are also going to be focusing, because volunteer engagement is such a large category, it includes things like the ushers at my church are over 65. That's not written down anywhere. That's no data is kept on that. There's so much everyday volunteer engagement. Just to make our work manageable, we're going to be thinking, because this is about affording aging, we're going to be focusing on the kinds of volunteer engagement that help older people afford aging. Things like, and I'm blanking on the name of the program, but these programs that kind of help older people fill out Medicare and Medicaid paperwork, that deal with housing, meal delivery, things like that. And SHIP. Thank you, Julia. So that is, I would say, where that group has met once. We have another meeting coming up. Julia, is there anything you'd like to add to what I said?
No, I think the only thing that I would add is that we would be remiss not to consider the events that are happening and as far as policy goes,
Yeah.
And how that is these federal policies and state policies as they are coming down the pipe, how that's going to impact folks' economic security and how that also impacts the delivery of services, especially at the CBO level. So we're not working in a vacuum. We have to very much think about the bigger picture and how this is just one small part of that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. So that is the volunteer engagement group. We also have a workforce group that's led by Catherine Lanier. This gets back to some of the things that Suzanne was talking about before, the kind of age-friendly employers. So this one is designed to ensure that older people who desire to work are able to do so in a kind without encountering ageism. And this one, I mean, every subgroup has its own challenges. This one has a challenge in that there's already so much work happening here, both, especially if Suzanne mentioned the resources the AARP gives to individuals. The kinds of things we're looking into here, I think I would say this group is still also really in a fact gathering phase. We want to understand what kinds of data are available about older people working and ageism. Look deeper into that data that Kaylee was sharing about the number of discrimination lawsuits, and understand something about the state of discrimination law, and also about the way that law is communicated or not communicated either to employers or to older workers. So that's one kind of potential area for intervention there. I will say that one we're trying to also understand the different, like, AARP versus CAFE. And this one we were kind of wondering, we were going to look more into that age-friendly workplace certification, because it seems like such a powerful tool. And this one we might actually have recommendations for the AARP about sort of how to make that a more meaningful tool, perhaps build some teeth or some accountability into it or something like that. So this group is going to be looking into how those age certifications are actually functioning. And someone is potentially designing a survey to send to some firms who maybe the HR people at some of these firms who have taken the pledge, to see how it lives in their firm. So to go back to what Julia said, like DEI trainings are probably on the way out. And so I wonder about how things like ageist discrimination will be trained now. So those are the kind of things that that group is gonna look into. Catherine, if you're here, would you like to add anything there?
I don't think I saw Catherine
Okay.
on our attendees list, and I don't think Elise is here either. Just a
Okay.
heads up.
And that one, I was not at that one, and so I'll be giving the least detailed overview of that one. But then we also have a third, which is most directly about combating education. Not combating education, although that's happening too. That's not our job. Combating ageism, and that group is looking at education materials and especially curricula in the K through 12 space. And so they are doing things like designing age-friendly curricula, which my co-lead Tina has done a lot of work on. And so they'll be working with the Department of Public Instruction, and they're trying to do things like get bigger uptake for these curricula. I think both at the kind of for kids and at universities. So that is their area of work. So those are the 3 work groups that we have in our little team. Happy to answer any questions.
James, this
I mean,
is
actually, I
Amy.
would say I was happy to take any advice, because I mean, each work group has really only met once. We have not done that much like actual work yet, so we're just getting started. So if people in this room have any advice for us, you can put it in the chat, which I think people are doing, or if anyone has questions.
I am able to give a little bit of information on the education group because I was able to attend that. And I know one of the big things Tina has created, or Dr. Newsham has created a curriculum for K through, I want to say, 2nd grade, that we are working to try to get some statewide expansion on that. And we are working with, as we talked about, the Department of Public Instruction to see how we can coordinate some further aging education in our standards. And then also we discussed having in October we have the Ageism Awareness Day, and so doing an event with maybe a panel or some ways we can incorporate not only the aging professionals but also those education areas, maybe getting some students to do some type of creative outlet, poem, pictures, photography, drawings, on what aging is to them and what they see, and kind of expanding on that ageism, combating that at a younger age. So that's something we've kind of talked about in that realm. And like we said, we've only met, I think, once. I think we're meeting again soon. And so we're excited to expand on that area. Janice, I see your comment. We'll connect.
Great. And I see Mary has a point too about DAHS doing had an office of, and I take by the past tense there, I take that to mean that office no longer exists, the Office of Volunteer Development.
It does not, but it was
Okay.
a wonderful program when it was in existence. And many of the local aging programs, particularly that depend on volunteers a whole lot, use them heavily for helping them to get their programs up and running. And just the technical assistance and training they offered them was just great.
If there's like an individual person that you think that it might be good for us to talk to about, like, because as I said, we're trying to figure out what can happen at the state level. Because so much of this happens in counties, and so so maybe someone from who was in that office, if they're still in state government, could be someone to advise us on that.
There used to be an office of volunteerism in the governor's office. I don't know if that still exists or not. Somebody may know more than I do about that.
Yeah, it looks like there's, when I Google it, something comes up. So okay, we will look into that. And if there's nothing else, I can hand it off to the next groups.
Thanks, James. That was a great overview. And thank you, Julia, for what you had to say. And also, Mary, thank you for that. And Janice and all the comments. That's something for us to look at. One other thing I'm just going to throw in there is I know that this group is also looking at age-friendly universities. And I'm proud to say that UNCW, thanks to the great work of Dr. Tina Newsome, they're the first in the state of North Carolina to be an age-friendly certified university. So that's something this group is also looking at. All right, so let's move on to the next steps here on financial education. Kaylee?
Right, I think I'm spotlighted. Thanks for throwing that in there, Suzanne. I was very privileged when I was in school at UNCW to work with Tina on getting UNCW as an age-friendly university. So that's very exciting, and hopefully we can expand that to other schools in the state. So next, we're going to talk about our financial education group and some data spotlighting that. So one of the main things is financial education and planning. So we want to promote financial security, reduce economic disparities among older adults. It is essential to focus on enhancing financial education. The following recommendation centers around empowering older adults to manage their finances more effectively and achieve greater financial stability. So first, we have increased financial education for older adults. Financial literacy is a critical tool in helping older adults make informed decisions about their income, savings, and investments. Increasing financial education programs will equip older adults with the knowledge they need to manage their finances, plan for retirement, and navigate financial challenges as they age. These efforts should focus on addressing common financial concerns such as budgeting, managing debt, retirement planning, and understanding available social support programs. So the current landscape for financial literacy and income sources for older adults. A national assessment conducted by the FINRA reveals that only 35% of older adults age 60 and above could answer 4 out of 5 basic financial literacy questions correctly. This statistic highlights the need for targeted financial education programs to improve the financial literacy of older adults, ensuring they can make informed decisions about their finances. Some additional financial literacy statistics include 47% of US older adults age 60 plus report feeling confident about managing their finances. In 2021, AARP survey found that only 41% of people aged 50 to 64 have a written retirement plan, and even fewer, just 28% of people aged 65 and plus have a retirement plan in writing. A 2020 study by the National Endowment for Financial Education found that only 38% of older adults aged 55 and above feel they have received enough financial education to make informed decisions about their finances. So next I'm going to talk about some sources of income for adults age 65 and plus. So understanding income sources is crucial for financial planning. The primary sources of income for older adults are Social Security, which is about 91% of adults age 65 and plus rely on Social Security as a primary source of income, indicating the central role this program plays in supporting older adults, which Bob mentioned earlier in his presentation. Retirement income. 57% of older adults have some form of retirement income or savings, such as pensions or 401k distributions. However, this means a substantial portion, 43%, may not have adequate retirement savings to sustain their needs in later life. Earnings. 35% of older adults age 65 and plus continue to earn income through employment. While working in later years is common, it may not be sufficient to meet all financial needs, particularly if health challenges arise. Senior Nutrition Assistant Program benefits. Only 10% of older adults benefit from programs like Senior Nutrition Assistant Program, which highlights that many may not be aware of or have access to these resources. Supplemental security income. 6% of older adults rely on SSI benefits, which are designed to provide additional financial assistance to low-income individuals. And then cash public assistance. Only 1% of older adults receive cash public assistance, which indicates a reliance on other income sources and a need for financial education on alternative public benefits. And so why is financial education essential? With a significant portion of older adults relying on Social Security and minimal retirement savings, financial education can help them become more strategic decisions about saving, budgeting, and investing. This knowledge is especially crucial as more people age and potentially face greater healthcare costs and economic challenges. And then financial education can play a key role in addressing economic disparities across older adults. Providing education on available support programs such as SSI or the Senior Nutrition Assistant Program can help individuals access the benefits they are eligible for but may not be aware of. While more than half of older adults have retirement income, a significant number still do not have adequate financial resources for retirement. Financial literacy programs can guide older adults in assessing their retirement savings, managing pension plans, and exploring ways to grow their income in later years. And then finally, financial education is a form of empowerment. It helps older adults understand their options and make choices that are best suited to their personal circumstances, whether that means taking full advantage of Social Security, seeking additional benefits, or planning for future healthcare costs. With the right tools, older adults can achieve greater financial independence and security. So with that, I'm going to give the brief overview for our financial education and planning subgroup updates. Our wonderful leaders, Dr. Moses Shari, Dr. Sandy Gregory, and Dr. Jeff Hutchins, were not able to be in attendance today. So I'm going to give the brief update as I was able to attend all these meetings so far. So we've convened twice. We had our first meeting in June and our second in July. And then during these initial meetings, members learned about the core recommendations of promoting financial well-being across the lifespan with particular focus on older adults. A central discussion focused on increasing access to financial education and pre-retirement planning, developing partnerships with financial institutions, legislative bodies, and tailoring resources to different age groups. The group is conducting a landscape analysis currently of existing financial education materials by decades of life, starting in the 20s through the 80+ population, with members assigned to gather and submit age-specific resources for each of these groups. These contributions will help to create statewide collection of tools and programs that are already existing, and also help us identify gaps in these resources. Members have also discussed promoting the needs versus wants budgeting education, identify saving strategies, and highlighting multi-generational financial planning, and kind of targeting that younger 20s and 30s audience to start saving for retirement at a younger age. Some of the next steps for this group include members are continuing to look at the 20s and through 80s age range groups to research and collect that age-specific financial education resources. And then members are also encouraged to brainstorm and share contacts or organizations that may be able to provide some valuable insights and be interested in joining our group or speaking at our upcoming meetings. We want to continue to have people at the table that we need. So I'll give a little plug here that we were looking for some financial institutes, advisors, banks, to join our group or come and give presentations. Because I know, speaking for myself, I'm in the health service field. Education is not my, or financial education is not my strong suit. So looking for people maybe from state employees, credit union, the treasurer's office, things like that, to come and give us that insight that we're looking for. So I'm going to give a plug there. If anyone has any contacts to share with us, we would love that. But I don't know if there's anyone on the group that wants to join, or if David and Suzanne have anything to add.
Kaylee, I thank you for that update. I don't know if there's any individuals from the group that are on, but I do think you've really summarized really well what our financial education and planning subgroup is trying to do. It's really talking about that financial education and that planning from the early age, because as we're looking at financial security for older adults, we know it has to start at a young age. Retirement planning is a lifelong process. And that's part of what All Ages, All Stages is about, as it comes from the name of the document itself. Aging and affording aging is something that involves all stages of life. It's a cross-sector plan. It's a multi-sector plan. It's geared at all individuals, regardless of what age they are, where they are in North Carolina, or what age they are. It's about making our state a better place for older adults to live with dignity and respect and enjoy their lifestyle. At this time, we want to have some questions and comments from our audience. As we're moving into that, if Kaylee, you'll go to the next slide, we've got a couple of discussion prompts to try to help shape the conversation. Think about what resonated with you today. How can you see about collaborating or aligning your work with what's being accomplished by all ages, all stages? What gaps are missed or perspectives have we missed? What do we need to add to the work that we're doing to make for a better plan? How can we better coordinate the state plan with those local needs? Feel free to come off of mute to share your comments, or feel free to share those in chat with us.
David, I see that Mary Bethel has, she stated the Senior Consumer Task Force and the Partnership to Address Adult Abuse has worked with some financial institutions on fraud prevention, like FINRA, for instance. I know that's a big one that we worked with, and that might be a group to look at, to reach out to. Thanks, Mary. Senior Consumer Fraud Task Force. Yeah, Steve Hahn's on that as well from AARP. Yeah, thank you, Mary. Any others? Any other questions? Does anybody have any questions for Bob Blancato? He had to jump off for another appointment, but he did text me and he wanted to know if you all had any questions for him, and I'll get those to him on that.
We've got a comment.
Yeah, you see the question, how will we be facing the artificial intelligence and its impact? I can say that I know AARP's been working on that with each Attorney General's office and making sure that there are things in place and information. I know there's been talk about starting up the Victims Assistance Program again through our Attorney General's office. Also, the Fraud Watch Network has counselors that'll help people who are victims of it or how to prevent it. Another, as Carolyn has mentioned here, is John Marin, who's with the Secretary of State at jmarin@sosnc.com. He's great. He could help with that. So those are some good referrals. Thank you. Any other questions? Anything for Bob Blancato? Go ahead.
We've got a comment in the chat about the CSEP program, about how easily it is to vanish. And I will say, I think part of what we've got to keep in mind is we're working with all ages, all stages, and working to improve the lives of our older adults. Advocacy is very important. Showing the impact of those programs, showing the value that they're bringing, that return on investment. So really raising those programs to the forefront with decision makers about the impact they're having, about the value they're bringing. I also think we've got a hand up, and I think it's Mary Bethel. Mary, do you want to unmute?
Yeah, thank you, David. So the nice thing about attending all these sessions is you see where there's potential overlap and how groups can work together. Right before this meeting this morning, we had a meeting talking about long-term care financing, and certainly having people save and things like that to pay for long-term care ties into that a whole lot. So I think there can certainly be an opportunity for a lot of a collaboration and synergy between groups like that are looking at how do people afford to pay for care in the long term, with what you guys are doing also to talk about saving and financial managing finances, things of that nature. So just a lot of overlap and interconnectedness between everything that we're doing, I think.
Mary, thank you so much for that comment. I know we're running short on time. So Kaylee, if we can go to the next slide, and one more, please. So as we're looking at what you should take away from today, aging is a lifelong process. It begins the day we're born, not the day we retire. And if we want North Carolina to be a place where people can age with dignity, stability, and opportunity, we must act now to ensure aging is something all of us can afford. This means more than just benefit programs or financial planning tools. It means building systems where people of all ages can find meaningful work, access caregiving supports, afford safe housing, and navigate life transitions without falling through the cracks. We know there are challenges that already exist: stagnant wages, caregiving demands, rising housing, health, and utility costs. workplace practices that push older adults out rather than valuing their contributions. The good news is we're not starting from zero. North Carolina is home to innovative employers, strong local leaders, and promising models for age-inclusive economic strategies. We need now is alignment, coordination, and a commitment to act together. The All Ages, All Stages North Carolina plan gives that shared framework. It connects economic development, employment, caregiving, housing, healthcare, and long-term support systems. It pushes us to think beyond programs and toward policies that make aging financially viable for all. This work will not be solved by one agency, one organization, or one initiative. It will take all of us working together, state agencies, businesses, educators, advocates, and caregivers, residents, all North Carolinians. Your expertise matters. Your leadership matters. Your voice matters. The vision is clear. The plan is ready. Now come the part that matters the most, implementing the plan. We look forward to working together to make North Carolina a place where no one has to choose between aging with dignity and making ends meet, and also creating a future where every person at every stage of life has the economic foundation to thrive. Over to you, Suzanne.
Thanks, David. We want to thank you all so much for joining us today. We feel that we gave you a lot of information. I hope it kind of helped you think differently or think in a way you can help us get through all of this. And so we want to see how you can get involved, and you can use that QR code there. And I always want to credit Mark Hensley for that. He's a QR code guy. So thank you, Mark, every time we use QR codes. But we want to make sure that you identify where your current programs and services or policies align with one or more of the plan's 8 priorities. Also, use this as a framework to help strengthen and scale your impact. We also want to look at how we can champion your organization and share the All Ages, All Stages North Carolina plan with your teams. Use staff meetings, internal newsletters, or planning retreats to explore how your agency can support this implementation. This is going to affect you. This is going to affect your grandkids. Also, amplify the message. Help raise awareness by sharing the plan with local leaders, community partners, and stakeholders. And the more people that understand it, the more momentum will build. Also, support policy alignment. Encourage local and state decision makers to adopt policies that advance the plan's goals. Use the recommended action steps as a guide for what is needed. And then tell us what is working. Let's hear your stories. Let's hear about any data that you might have or lessons learned of how we can help refine the implementation effort and keep the work grounded in a real world impact. Like you always heard, boots on the ground. And last of all, stay engaged. Sign up for updates, participate in future forums, and look for opportunities to pilot innovative practices tied to the plan's vision. Also, reach out to us directly if you would like to get plugged into the October engagement round. We sure do appreciate you all being here today. Thank you so much, and we hope you have a great rest of your week. Thank you.